Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is creating unity through music, but also, as I like to say, making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. And today I am once again in the Studio 1 of the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society, and our guest is connected via Zoom from New York, and I'm so very pleased and privileged and happy to be able to talk today with a fabulous musician, film producer, catalyst, fabulous person, Tara Linhardt. Thank you so much, Tara, for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me. This is really fun.
Cool. So the way that we, got together for this electronic communication was my friend Bob Perilla, who I went to high school with, but is a great bluegrass musician. And I talked with him not too long ago on the podcast, and he said, "Oh, I know who you should talk with. You need to talk with Tara." So I said, "Okay." And he connected us, and here we are. And since then, I have, checked out your movie, which we'll talk about, and some of the things you have on your website and all that. I'm just in awe and impressed by all the things that you do. So, thanks up front for doing all that you do.
Oh yeah, well, it's actually fun. I like to bring happiness and friendships and help people meet each other and make music, and more of that in the world, the better.
Oh my God, that's for sure. So, where did you grow up? Where did you come from? Was there music in your house? I'm always interested in what people say about how music kind of came into their lives. Were you young?
Problem start? Yeah.
Huh?
How did this problem start? How did bluegrass music come in my life? There's a song a friend of mine wrote about that. Bluegrass music. But I grew up in a small town area where I couldn't see any neighbors or humans really, except us. But in Taylorstown, Virginia, which is in Loudoun County, western Loudoun County, bustling metropolis of a lot of trees and a couple goats and a few people. But very fun and artsy, interesting people generally that live out there. And my family did not play music. And I guess I ended up being a little weird that way. But what's funny is my grandmother, when she was just sort of on her way out, I was going through old photos, old family photos, because I realized she was the only one that knew who these people were in these really ancient pictures. And I thought I should write on the back who they are. Well, she's still here to tell me. And we got to a picture of my great grandmother, her mother, and she was professionally posing for a portrait with her mandolin in like 1908 or something.
Wow.
And I said, "Why didn't anyone tell me my great grandmother played mandolin? I'm a professional mandolin player. No one ever mentioned this." Anyway, but they were like, "Oh yeah, she did." But my grandma was already kind of, fading a little bit mentally. She'd been brilliant, woman. But I said, what did she play on the mandolin? Because she was Jewish. She was in New York. She'd, immigrated from, I believe, like a Russian or Polish or something area.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, did she play klezmer? Did she play classical, show tunes? What did she do? And my grandma just said she just loved to play that mandolin every chance she could. That's all I could get. But I got the picture. I made a copy of it, took it to a place.
Yeah, cool. So, well, what triggered you? Was there an incident, or you just picked up you were listening to records when you were young, or somebody had a mandolin, or?
I started when I was a kid with guitar. I just thought music sounded fun. And then I didn't have any.
How old?
I was probably like 7 when I first started, but it was like my parents didn't play music, so they didn't really know about making it fun or needing other humans to play music with or any of that stuff. So I didn't really take off because it was classical and it was like sitting alone playing etudes. So, but I dabbled on and off, and I kept my guitar around, and then, I played a little in middle school and high school, but nothing serious. But then when I got my license, I started driving over to Luckett's Bluegrass because it was the only place that was close that I was really allowed to drive to. So my best friend Maura and I would we'd get all gussied up and we'd drive over to Luckett's to see bluegrass because it was really the only thing going. And so we had a lot of bluegrass on weekends. So it was it was out of the house. We got to go out of the house.
So about 16, and somebody you
Yeah.
liked the mandolin, you picked it up. Were you taking
No, I
lessons?
didn't actually even do that then. I was still kind of just, dabbling with guitar and just listening and going for fun. And then I had friends that played in high school. They played music, and at first I was just watching them. And then I remember there was one time, maybe we were just jamming at our friends the Larson's house, and I was like, "Here, let me try that mandolin." And I was like, "Oh wow, it can do everything a guitar can do, except it's smaller and easier to carry." And then I'd still, I didn't really click in too serious, but I decided to become like serious musician and get it really into it and focus on it when I was living in Nepal, and I was in a Tibetan monastery studying meditation, and it was mostly silent. It was like 10 days or 2 weeks. I can't remember how long it was, but it was a Kopan monastery at Mahayana, and I had a giggling problem where at the 4 o'clock meditation day, I would get laughing fits, and then I would ruin everyone's silent meditation. They were chanting or dinging a bell or looking at a flame or something, and I would just giggle myself out of the room. So I could meditate the other times. For some reason, at 4 o'clock, it just every day. So anyway, the nuns and monks kind of talked to me. They pulled me aside, and I was like, "I am so sorry. I keep doing that." And one of the monks said, for different people, different forms of meditation can be more effective. So you may find that silent meditation is not your best avenue for escaping from the worldly concerns of life, and he said, some people find laughter meditation really effective, or gardening, or a lot of people use yoga or dance or music, making some sort of music, something where you're active, but where while you're doing that activity, there is no future, there is no past, there is no worldly other concerns. You're not thinking about your car or your banking or your job. There is nothing but the present. And if you can attain that and find this hyper relaxed, hyper focused spot, then you're doing it. And I thought about it the next couple of meditations, and I was already playing guitar some, and I was studying tabla, which is Indian classical drumming. I'd been studying that for a year with Shambhu Mishra. And then I decided mandolin can do everything a guitar can do. I can play melody, I can play rhythm, and I can carry it like in a backpack. If I'm hiking, I can put it in the overhead compartment on any airplane, carry it on my lap on any bus. So that's how I became a mandolin player. Was without a mandolin in a monastery. I decided I was going to save up my money when I got back to the U.S. and buy a mandolin. Here I am.
Wow. So let me go back just a hair. What caused you? What was the trigger, the inspiration that led you to study the Indian music or instruments and to go over there and start meditating?
Oh, I didn't really meditate all that much. I'm not Buddhist really or anything. But I'm interested in everything, so I just study everything I can. But I was going to the University of Wisconsin for school, and I came from a very small town in Taylorstown, and I was really excited to see the rest of the world and meet everybody in it. So I had been on the East Coast a good bit, and I'd been on the West Coast a good bit. I'd never been to the middle of the country, so I went to school in Wisconsin, figuring I'd just move there and I'd figure it out, work my way out from the middle. And then I really wanted to go on a broad program, so I figured out, some broad programs that didn't cost too much because I wasn't allowed to spend too much on school stuff. So, but Nepal looked really interesting, and I really liked Nepali food because it had really good curries and stuff, and the people were really friendly. Like, I met a few Nepali people in Madison, Wisconsin. Anyway, so it turned out to be a great thing. So I did 2 of my years abroad for my college. I did 3 years actually in Wisconsin. And then I did 1 year in Nepal, and my last year I graduated at the University of Chiang Mai in Thailand. But both countries I picked have really good food, and I can wear flip-flops most of the year. So they're very comfortable, and they're very friendly people. So I picked 2 countries that I think were good choices. Really friendly, really fun, and really yummy food. Yeah.
Wow, you're really into everything for sure.
Yeah. I studied also. I studied yoga, massage. I traveled around when I was an undergrad in Wisconsin, through Wisconsin. I traveled with some NGOs, environmental NGOs, because I was studying environmental. My major was actually in international relations, emphasis on environmental and cultural issues. So I studied, intensive Nepali language and Thai language and a little bit of Hindi. And but I did my big mainstay research project, which was the entire second semester. I lived with and studied with wood carving family out in a wood carving village in Nepal, and I'm still definitely closely connected to those folks I lived with out there. And actually, when I've been leading some music, arts, and culture tours to Nepal for people from the United States who might be interested in getting off the beaten path and meeting musicians and artists and people that actually do this stuff instead of just buying things or going on a tourist route or something. And I definitely bring them out to the village, and they get to try some wood carving or craft making, different kinds, meet the wood carvers, check out the stuff, see what the wood's about, and then meet a lot of my musician friends that I've been gigging with and working with a lot of Nepalis over there. And I've also, with my nonprofit, the Mountain Music Project, been setting up music education programs at orphanages and things. So I hire local Nepali teachers to teach like sarangi, which is the traditional fiddle over there. So yeah, lots of fun connections, and just helping people meet other cool people is just great, and they hit it off and they make friends and they make music and they try crafts and they, it's just great.
That's so amazing. Oh my God, it's so inspiring too. I'm gonna have to check out more of these things that you're planning. Let me ask. So after you started, on the mandolin, and after college and all that, I guess you decided to be a professional musician and do these other things, and then what led to the movie, the Mountain Music Project? What was the trajectory sort of to there?
Well, like most things, it sort of has sort of just flowed into us. So, it seems like a lot of the coolest things in life, if you just relax and go with the flow, that's where they go. Yeah. But I was living and playing a lot of music with Danny Nicely, and I really wanted him to come over and meet the wood carving family I lived with, and check out India and Nepal, because it's so cool, it's so fun over there. And there's so much to learn. If you're really inquisitive and you love learning things, India and Nepal are just so fun because there's so much cool stuff going on all the time and people that are excited to teach you and show you. So I talked him into going with me, and we lived in Benares in Uttar Pradesh for a little while, a couple of months. And he studied raga music on sarod and violin, and I was studying some Hindi. And then we went up to Nepal. And then we did a little jaunt for a little bit up to Tibet, to Lhasa. And when we were in Lhasa, we met a guy named Jake Penchansky. And he was the only other tourist there. It was beginning of March. It was really cold. There was no Westerners were in Lhasa. Even a lot of Tibetans aren't there. It's so cold. So anyway, we started talking to him over dinner because, of course, we made instant friends because he was the other Westerner in the country. And we were telling him about these amazing similarities between the music and the culture in Virginia, where we're from, the Appalachian Mountains, and that of the Gandharva, the musician caste in Nepal. And he was like, I'm traveling on some grants to record traditional musics for NPR. I wonder if we could get a grant to do some project with Appalachian and Himalayan. And we were like, yeah, that'd be really great, because the similarities are enormous. I mean, if we actually documented it, it'd be really cool. And so Jake and I both started trying to find grants and write grants. And, we didn't get any right away, but we ended up eventually getting one from the Rubin Foundation, and just enough to start us up. It was like $5,000, and it cost more than that to get all of our plane tickets and visas just to get there.
Yeah.
It was a labor of love. Definitely a lot of it was just out of our own pockets. But we did get some private donations and things to help out. And we spent a couple months in Nepal traveling around with a film crew. And we had some great filmmakers with us from Delhi, like Sanjeev Manga. He's ended up also staying with us the whole time, helping finish the movie all the way through. And we recorded and traveled and archived musics from the Gandharva, the musician caste villages. And we wanted to make sure to get a good representation from around the country. So we did some in different regions, the Chitwan area in the south. We did some in the far west. We did some in the central areas, and really tried to, get a full picture as we could, and ended up spending 6 years on the movie. but we did a good job in the end, and got good footage from Virginia, and then back over to Nepal and back to Virginia, and put in there some Galax Fiddlers Convention, which that is really the reason that I really started getting serious. Also, Danny Nicely, Sammy Sheeler, a lot of the professional musicians I know, we all became good musicians because we went to the Galax Fiddlers Convention. And when we were there, it was just like this thing clicks and you're like, oh, wow, music can be for everyone. Music is really fun. Little kids are playing and kicking my butt. Little kids are playing really well. Little old ladies are playing really well. And men that can barely walk are playing really well, like all these people. And the fact that you can see that, when I was going to Luckett's, I saw a lot of like older men, that were playing. And then I went to Galax and there's like ladies in bouffant hairdos just tearing it up, like old ladies and like 6-year-old kids just tearing it up. And that's when it hit me. I want to do this. And I want to go to these festivals. I want to go to Galax every year, the rest of my life, probably.
What is that festival? What?
The Galax Fiddlers Convention down in Southwest Virginia. It's when I broke I don't know if you noticed, but I held for a while the Guinness Book World's Record for the largest mandolin ensemble of all time.
Cool.
That I did down at Galax because I looked it up randomly one day, like, I wonder what the world's record is for the largest mandolin band. And it was like 300 and something mandolins. And I was like, oh my God, I can blow that out of the water. I do that at Galax. There's over 300. There's probably 400 registered people in the mandolin contest at Galax. So, wow. I called up a couple friends like down in Southern Virginia and North Carolina that always go. And I said, check it out. The record for the world's record for the largest mandolin ensemble is 300 and something. And they said, oh my gosh, we could break that at Galax. And I said,
exactly. Is that mainly bluegrass or festival?
Well, bluegrass and old time, and there's some swing jazz too. So it's acoustic. There's no electric instruments.
Yeah.
No strings. But yeah. So we took the record from the Germans, but then now the Cretes have it in Greece. So Cretans.
Wow. So I watched the movie and I just was thinking, this is so perfect. This is what everybody needs to appreciate. What you were just talking about, that everybody can make music, and it's such a better world that you're so much more appreciative of, in a way, if you're listening and participating with other people and making music and having fun. The way that you looked at the Virginia musicians and then the musicians in Nepal, and I was also struck by the Gandharva. Is that what you said?
Yeah, perfect, yeah.
And how they were kind of these rambling troubadours, and that was their profession, and it was, they brought news from one town to another town, and, they served a real role in society, but everybody thought they were kind of worthless. They were the caste system.
That everywhere. I mean, honestly, we've all felt that here. All musicians have felt that. Can you leave out the back door and here's your box lunch?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get treated like a star when you're a musician, but you also don't always get treated like a star when you're a musician. It's like, those bumper stickers, I'm a musician, can I sleep on your couch? It's a little too close to home. It's real. It's true.
Yeah, but it seems so kind of backwards. I felt that, the people who are the most beneficial to society are the teachers and the nurses and the musicians and the artists and all that, and they get like paid the least.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'd love to get paid more. Sure.
We're upside down, I think.
Yeah.
And part of this effort with Planetary Gig Society and these podcasts is just to, have more conversation, whatever we can bring to that. But the movie was so great. So, I mean, what kind of things have sort of come? I mean, I'm sure it was just an amazing thing that, to have done it all, but what things have kind of come out of that? I mean, how have you seen the power of music in what you were doing and what's come out of the movie and what you've been doing?
So there have been things that on many levels over time, it's been out for a few years, but one thing that was cool even at the time that we were doing it is seeing the looks of like the little kids as we're filming the old folks playing music. And that I think just helps to encourage them, because in a lot of ways, some of the music, the Gandharva music and the Sarangi music has been sort of an endangered music because a lot of the young people are not interested or have not been, been sort of getting less interested in it. because there's rock music, there's like electric guitars, and there's movies. We can just sit down and we can just have entertainment shown to us without any effort or thought. We can just watch movies, and watch, videos, and never do anything, And I think we got to really try to fight that. We got to, within ourselves, not with other people. You don't have to try to impose it to other people, but just within yourself, just say, how many hours have I spent just sitting there taking in things around me without making or doing anything myself, And so I like to do that. And so when I'm making music events, I do also do gigs. I play for parties and weddings and things like that, where I play just at people. But I also like to, like what I tend to do, and I've done this in Virginia, and I've done this in New York, and I've even tried to do some in Nepal, but set up things where people can play with each other, like make jam sessions. So like I make bluegrass jams, and I make swing and gypsy jazz jams, and I try to, I ran a festival in Virginia for a number of years, the Loudon Bluegrass Festival. And I always tried to make a big element of that, led jam sessions that were open to anyone to come to play Irish music, old time music, jazz music, all acoustic, all inviting. People could sit on the edge if they're shy. They could get in on it and in and out if they wanted to. Workshops where people can learn how to do the music. And I did help to, I worked with some great Nepali people in Kathmandu and also helped make some festivals there, trying to bring those ideas of like, well, can we get people so that they can learn how to do it, so we can, and then also with the Mountain Music Project with our nonprofit, which people can donate to. We do have a tax deductible. Just throw that in there.
All right.
If people want to donate, they can check that out or talk to me. Music events that involve helping people learn how to play the music, because the idea that you could just say music's for everyone play, and they don't know what they're doing, doesn't always work out. That is an idea sometimes you see at the folk jams where everyone's just playing shakers and yelling and singing on key or off key or whatever. But like I just ran a bluegrass music camp, which I just I started my own music camps to help people learn how to play with each other, and encourage people to learn the techniques, because there are some rules which really make it so you can have a really great sounding jam. Everyone can take solos and know their parts and sing harmonies. And so anyway, I just like to create that sense of community and helping make platforms where people can learn and better themselves, but also where they can be friendly and they can make friends. They can, because I think that's also something that's hard and harder even in some ways now, with all the internet and people talking digitally and vicariously, and to actually have things where you're encouraged to meet people face to face and do things, make things, create things face to face with each other. That's where I'm trying to create that so that people can join in on those types of things.
Oh my God. Well, it's so awesome. I mean, it's sort of, the idea of the planetary gigs is just more gigs, not necessarily paying musician gigs, but more music around the planet, and you've been really living that. We've got a group that I've been involved with for maybe 20 years in DC. I don't know if you heard of it, the Archie Edwards Blues Heritage Foundation. Archie Edwards was a blues musician, but also a barber, and he used to have a little kind of community that would come around on the weekends, and Saturday afternoons he'd say, "Ain't cutting no more hair," and they would start jamming blues. And he passed in 98, and we set up a little nonprofit, and the barbershop, they've been jamming every Saturday afternoon for 20 years practically.
That's great. And a lot of people made friends there.
Oh my gosh.
Interested in starting to play music because they came to watch, and then they were like, oh, I could do this. Yeah, and I love that. So yeah, tonight I'll be leading my jam session down in the Bronx. I have sort of a hot bluegrass jam, and then I do a slower bluegrass jam on another day. So that different people at different levels can all join in and make friends. But it's definitely a lot of people. And, Virginia, too, I've found that there's so many people that I've taught music to over the years on different instruments that now are out jamming and gigging. And I think some teachers they teach their students in this little vacuum, and they show them a book, and they just show them a couple of songs. But I always try to incorporate, and now I teach lessons online. So now I have students all over the country. I even have some in Canada, different countries, which is really fun. I love getting to teach students. You're in Alabama? Cool. You're in British Columbia? Yeah, yesterday I had a student in British Columbia up in Canada. But Anyway, but I always include as part of my lessons, how to find jam sessions, jam etiquette, how to,
Right.
get in and out of taking breaks and make friends. And so my students, more than a lot of other people's students, I think I noticed, end up playing in bands and playing gigs and going to jams and feeling comfortable in jams, because I found that, I was like, when I first started teaching and I had people coming one at a time, they were all saying they couldn't find someone to play with, and I was like, you
Right.
need to start playing with other people. And they're like, well, where am I going to do that? I only know 4 songs. And so I started having people just come over to my living room. And then, now I have so many people that want to do it. I use like a restaurant or a bar, some, place where I can get a lot of people. They can watch it and join in on it. But providing that space where you're like safe and welcome and it's fun and it's funny and you can work on being a musician, not just watching music. I think it's just such a great thing. Is it anyway? And it's so fun as the audience roots for people. They're like, oh wow, this is the first time this guy's ever taken a break on the mic. Yay! And everyone will clap, even if it's kind of like, not perfect, but
I know I've seen heard and seen a lot of those similar types of things, and I'd like to ask another point, which is related to this, is I grew up. I didn't have music necessarily in my house too much. I kind of felt music and musicians were out there. It was
right,
not necessarily something for me. That's a little bit of a hurdle for people to get over. A lot of people say,
right.
"Oh no, I can't play. I can't do this. I can't do that." It's almost a question of how do you instill, how do you let people realize that they can pick up an instrument tomorrow and
Yeah,
start playing?
well, I've had a number of my students start by just people that came to my gigs that were watching, and that said, I remember one guy, and he was probably like 45 years old or something, and he said, "That's the one thing I've always regretted is that I didn't play music." And I was like, "You're not dead. 45. You could live another 45 years more than that. Like 45. You can't say I never played music. You just start. You get an instrument and I'll start teaching you next week. It's not like that. And you really just start by learning one line at a time. If
Yeah.
you can learn like, do 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 do, you got one line. Boom. Next thing you know, you're a musician. You got one song. If you enjoy playing that one song, you're well on the road. And the fun thing I like is, again, someone that's always thirsty for learning, and I just love that feeling of learning something new that I'm excited by, and I love also that feeling of helping someone else learn something that they're excited by. And you can just see the gears going and their big smiles coming, and they're like, oh, I get it. And I mean, I've taught other things. So I've always taught things. So I have a master's in education, but I've taught, English, I've taught riding, I've taught rafting, I've taught, different things, but music a lot for a long time. And, but just watching that spark come, and all of a sudden they're like, I'm doing it. And music, you never stop learning. You never know it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You never know all the instruments. You never know all the songs. You never know all of the different modes or time signatures. And one of my peeves is actually people that say, I know everything. What kind of music do you play? Oh, I play everything. It's just so silly. So then I ask them their favorite, Vietnamese folk songs, or, how many Peruvian songs they've worked in on sort of a jazz repertoire. What's their some sambas they like to do. And then they start realizing that was silly. But, with raga music and African music, there's just unending amount of fun and mental learning you can do. And so that's where I tell my students too, you don't master it. It's never over. Because they say, well, how long before I'm a master? And I'm like, well, we're never there. It's a road. You enjoy the scenery. You enjoy looking at that road as you're traveling down it, because the journey is the thing. You never arrive. You just keep going further down the road. So more and more songs, more and more theory, more and more stuff that you can put into the game, stir into your soup, so to speak. But that's the fun part, like there's those bumper stickers, you've probably seen them, says so many tunes, so little time. You're just like, oh, that's a great song too. Oh, I've been meaning to learn
Oh,
that. Oh, that's so cool.
I've been feeling that a lot recently. But, your enthusiasm is just infectious, and I think if we could, I know we can't just duplicate you, but if there were,
Yeah, my fault.
ways to, get more of this. I just think we would have a better world if more people were thinking about, a lot of this other stuff is not so important. It doesn't, nothing lasts, and music is just amazing. It brings people together, and
Right. Also, like you can get, and you'll hear about people doing this. You spend a lot of time making a lot of money, and then you lose all your money in the stock market, or you buying a house and the house. But if you can effectively like create a positive change in people's lives, like you teach people stuff, and then they use it to have a happier life, then that's something that carries on long after you're gone. And it is fun. I can see, I hear people that, some of my students that have met some of my former students that go to some festival and say, oh, I met some of your former students that, and we started jamming, and really great guys, and these are people that wouldn't have played music at all. Maybe, some of them started from zero. And, a lot of my students, both in like Virginia and Maryland and now in New York, students that started taking lessons from me that didn't know anything about music at all, or that didn't play any bluegrass or old time music. And then I sort of, helped them learn about Irish and bluegrass and old time and the different kinds of jams and stuff. They're leading jams now, which are now bringing in new people into the community. So that's really rewarding, just to see how many of my students that I taught to jam are now leading jams and doing gigs too. But, I love that. They got that sense of community going.
Yeah, that's, and that's another question is, how do you really develop kind of a worldwide community of musicians who have, getting back to the mission of our Planetary Gig Society, kind of an intention of making a better world? I mean, it seems like you're kind of doing it, but pardon?
I'm trying to. It's not, it definitely, it's something that doesn't make me much money, so I have to try to do things to try to survive at the same time. But it's all good. But what's funny too is, even if I'm not making things happen, there is a sort of a sense of communal family among musicians. So, when I've traveled to other countries, any other countries, and I meet other musicians, there's already a sort of kinship feeling, which is really cool. So, and I tell people when they say, should I bring an instrument when I travel? And I'm like, well, if it's a full-size harp or piano, maybe not. But if you have something you can bring, it's a great way to make friends. And, like just the fact that I will travel with, I don't usually bring my guitar overseas, but a guitar or a mandolin or something, then musicians come out of the woodwork and they just say, hey, do you play music? And they take us home and they play music with us and introduce us to their grandmother. And, it's like, it opens so many doors. And even, I've been in India and I do speak some Hindi, but I don't speak a lot of the other Malayalam and, Telugu and languages. I've been in places where I didn't know one word of the local language, but I was a musician, and the musicians would come up to me, and even if we couldn't really talk, some of them speak English great, in India, but don't. And they would really try really hard to communicate and share their stuff with me, or whoever I was with, because we knew we were both musicians. It's like, oh, you're my cousin Tara, great, It's an instant cousinness. And that's how the movie thing also partly started, was that, before we even met Jake and decided to try to get grant money or anything, we met Buddhiman Gandharva, who's still, a good friend of mine. But he just walked up to us because we had instruments on our back. And he said, oh, you guys play music? I play music too. You want to try coming to a jam? And he brought us to a jam. And then we were listening to them jamming. And we actually were recording it at the same time. Actually, we put a little mic out, and then because we were chatting, everyone wanted to know about our music and where we came from. So we thought, well, we'll record it and we can listen to it when we get home and really focus more on the music. And of course, we set it really brilliantly in a mandolin case so that the case would help to absorb the sound and work as a backdrop to get the mic a good listen to. Oh, yeah, it's great. And then someone knocked the table like 5 minutes later and the case shut. But we still could hear it. Yet another one of our brilliant ideas. But anyway, but we were listening back in the room, and Danny Nicely was actually listening. And he said, hey, they're playing Sally Ann. Check it out. And I put the headphones on. I was like, oh, my gosh, they are. They're playing Sally Ann. And it was not the entirety of the song, but we figured out in listening to this jam when we got home that like maybe, we have A parts and B parts to our tunes. That a lot of times the B part would be exactly the same as some American Appalachian tune.
Wow.
The A part would be different. But then on another song, and sometimes the melodies were the same. And then I speak Nepali, so, like I was translating, cluck old hen, for instance, into Nepali. My old hen, she's a good old hen. She lays eggs a real men. Talking about how many eggs this chicken lays. And then the chicken stops laying eggs. She hasn't laid eggs since last fall, late last spring. Retirement plans aren't great for chickens in the 1800s. So anyway, that we translated that, and they said, "Oh yeah, we have songs about like chickens laying eggs and farm animals." And then, then they would sing a song, and then I would translate it, and then Danny'd sing a song that was basically the same concept. Hard times, or my loves across the Blue Ridge Mountains. It's people sing about the same thing everywhere, which is fun. So once you start getting that, then Polly's got really excited. They were like, "Oh my gosh, this is great!" Because the only kind of music that a lot of people in Asia get to hear is the pop music that makes it all the way over there. The stuff that has a big distribution company that's going to ship it over there, or that made it on, the most common TV shows. So they didn't realize that we had fiddle tunes and mountain music, bluegrass and old time music. So they were really excited to hear us playing it. And we came back after that first night into the jam the next day. They had a daily jam session. And Kathmandu has so much music going on. It has so many people doing gigs and jams. I mean, it's also a foodie capital. Lots of great food and a lot of music. I mean, when I led this last tour in March, and I brought some people that didn't play music were on the tour, but also some professional bluegrass musicians came on the tour, and they were commenting, "Man, I just can't believe how much music is being played in how many clubs in on like a middle of the week, and I can't believe how much good food there is. Who knew Kathmandu was a foodie capital?"
Wow.
But anyway, we started off at the jam by playing Sally Ann, and they said, "Hey, you already learned our song from yesterday?" And we said, "Nope, that's one of our songs from our mountains." And they were like, "Whoa!" And then they said, "We got to do something with this." And we were like, "I know, we should do something. What should we do?" So they were really excited, and we came back. We said, "We're going to make a movie about how you guys and us say and do the same things." And they were like, "Oh, this is great." So they were all really excited to get on board and help out. And that's sort of how the movie happened. There were lots of great volunteering people.
Oh my God. Well, I feel like we could talk for eons. But just tell folks about your trips and what you have planned, coming up.
So the Mountain Music Project, I still like to go over there if I can, at least once a year, to start a new music education program or monitor some of the ones we have going, so we can keep kids at some of the orphanages, learning music that wouldn't normally get to. But also while I'm over there, I figured out another thing is a lot of people were coming up to me in the United States, or, they could be from any country, really, Canada or Australia or, Spain, no, it doesn't matter. But so far it's been Americans that say, "I would love to come to Nepal, but I want to go with you. I want you to introduce me to these cool people, these musicians and these artists and the wood carvers and some of the monks. I want to go to a monastery and actually meet somebody, And I said, "Sure, yeah, let's see how I could do this, So then I got the idea, and I've been working with this woman, Sydney Freymeier, and leading some tours. So so far, I did one in March. I was thinking of doing them every March. So I've got a tour lined up for next March. But I might branch out and do other ones, too, at other times, depending on, how many people are interested. I mean, if there's a whole group of people that want to do something, I could set up something custom for them. But my tours, so far, it's like I do the first week, which is the mainstay of the tour. And that's music, arts, and culture based. So it's around the Kathmandu Valley, which is a pretty big, diverse area, actually. And we, go meet wood carvers and musicians, and people can try some of the stuff. They could record music or play some music with them, or see, how people build instruments. A lot of instrument builders over there for sarangis and tungas and arbages and all sorts of stuff. Drumming. They have a big drumming tradition there. Dance traditions. Anyway, so that's the first week, is that focus of stuff of music, arts, culture, temples, monasteries, fun stuff, and little light hiking just in the near hills and farms and stuff. So you don't have to be in awesome shape or have any special equipment. but just be in fairly, good enough shape you can go up and downstairs without too much trouble and stuff. And then for people that have a little extra time and that want to get out into the more distant hills, more remote hills, I have a 6-day extension on the end of that where people can go with me, and we'll go out to the mountains and go down to Pokhara and go see some beautiful views. And still, we can stay in guest houses, so you don't have to schlep a lot of heavy stuff. You don't have to be uncomfortable. You can still take a shower. Yeah. But then if people also want to, this last time I offered some opportunities for people to volunteer. So since I do have a lot of, orphanages and schools that I know and I've worked with, I set up a woman to stay in a homestay with a family of some friends of mine. And she volunteered and taught English as a second language for 3 or 4 days. And she taught for her, she wanted a lot, you could do a lot or a little, but I had her teaching at a local orphanage, a local school, and then a local women's organization up there on the mountain. And so she stayed up in a national park and did that. And she loved it. It was just amazing. She said,
amazing. So if somebody wants more information on that, where should they go?
Yeah, you could just go to my website, and then my email's right up there. So just go taralinhardt.com. And then you can email me, just go to contacts. And if you want information also from my website, you can get links to see the movie, which you can buy the movie on DVD. The Mountain Music Project's the name of the movie. It's also the name of the nonprofit. It's also the name of the CD project, because we really couldn't think of other names that we could all agree on. So they're all called the Mountain Music Project. And the CD that we made also has people that a lot of bluegrass and old time people are going to know as sort of superstars. I guess Tim O'Brien and Tony Trischka and Abigail Washburn and Riley Bogus and Paul Brown, who did national, may know from NPR radio. And then us, of course, and some villagers from Nepal, all on there together playing the CD. But anyway, so if you want stuff, just go taralinhardt.com, and that's TARALINHARDT at the end.com. Anyway, and you can, there's a link to watch our movie on Amazon if you like to just stream it. And then you also can just email me, and I can send you, an itinerary of upcoming tour stuff, details or whatnot. And also if anyone wanted to, take lessons, I do teach lessons to people all over the world. So they could do online lessons or whatever. Lots of options. And I have videos up there from some interviews, and people are interested in those too.
Yeah, well, it's so cool. Oh my God, I certainly recommend the movie and people checking that out. And I feel like we'll have to catch up again sometime soon. Really would like that. You're just fabulous, infectious enthusiasm and all good stuff. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, great. I can't wait to hear it too.
All right, so Tara Linhardt, everybody, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.